What is up, everybody? Jordan here. Kickback, as I've been saying the past couple weeks, as I figure out what it is that we're doing. I'm just talking to people that I like, that are doing cool stuff, and having conversations, seeing what's good. And I got another homie on here that is very near and dear to my heart. Candice, what is going on?
So one, when you said here, I've never heard you sound more here than when you said here.
Hey,
And look,
occasionally I
and
sound
it
like I'm from England, occasionally,
right. Okay, every now and then.
every now and
And yeah, it's cool to be here. Among one of the people that, you think are doing cool work.
then. I appreciate it.
It's always humbling. I think I'm just having fun
Hey, that's the place
sometimes.
that you want to stay at. Facts. Like you got to remember those moments where you're having fun. You know what I'm saying? If you've been
Yes.
in ministry for any length of time, there's times where it just ain't fun, and then there are times where it's like, man, I don't want to do anything else with my life. You know what I'm saying? And then times
Hmm.
like, Lord, if I can do anything else, please let me do that. You know what I'm saying? If I can do anything else, Jesus, please, Lord,
Do
let
I
me do
have more
something else.
marketable skills?
Facts. Facts. And I feel like what God does too is he waits till the point of no return where like there is
Yeah.
no way for you to wiggle out of the thing that he's asking you to do or the position he's putting you in. So you just there. You know what
Man,
I'm
that's
saying?
my
You just there.
journey. That's my journey. I feel like if I were to do something else like right now, like I don't
Like
this
what?
is the road that it's taking me on, you know what I'm saying? And I
No
the
return.
journey has the journey of getting here has been cool though. And it's not a journey that I would have orchestrated. I would not have when I started driving the car of my own life, I never would have drove here, right? But the
No
way
doubt.
that the turns and the twists have taken, I'm just like, oh, this makes sense. Oh yeah, this makes sense. Oh, let's stop here right now. It makes sense. But I can't unjourney myself. And all of
Yep.
that I take and I put into the work that they lets me be able to think creatively and do some fun stuff. But I don't know what else I would do.
Yeah, no doubt. I feel like I'm always reminded of those words that the disciples said to Jesus when he's like, will you leave too? John 6, he gets done. If you want a real miracle, eat my flesh, drink my blood. All the people leave, and then he's like to the disciples, "Will you leave me too?" And they're like, "Where else can we go, Lord? You only you have the words of eternal life." And like sometimes
Yeah.
that scripture gives me great comfort, and other times it just frustrates the mess out of me. And I'm like, "All right, I want to go somewhere else right now, but there ain't
Yeah.
nowhere else to go." You know,
Yeah.
the words of David: "If I make my bed in the pit, you are there." I can't
Yeah.
run from you, God. It don't matter. I can try and go do something else. It's just not gonna work.
I heard Charlemagne ask. I was listening to the Breakfast Club, and I heard Charlemagne ask Clarissa Shields. He asked her the question: at what point does being great feel like a burden? And I
Mm.
just had to pause it for a second. I mean, I probably butchered the question up, but I had to just pause it for a second, and I was like, "There's some parts of what I do that feel heavy. It feels burdensome. Like I feel the weight of it, you
Mm.
know? But then there's some parts of it that is just like, I get to do this. This is so cool. And I think the way that she responded, she said something like, none of it is something like that. I'm like, girl, keep on living. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't think that, I think all parts of it are burdensome in some way. The weight of it is, even if it is just the exercise of having to exercise and get in that shape to be able to box like she boxes, to fight like she fights, or even like after getting in a fight, you might have won, but you still got bruised up. You're
Mhm.
hurting, right? That's a part of it. So
Oh yeah, it makes me. I was watching a video on YouTube the other day of a girl who's a runner in Great Britain. She's a middle distance runner. Forgot her name, but she runs the 800 meters. She actually just won a couple of days ago.
no,
But
cool.
she was on a high performance podcast and she was talking about her training. And basically, she was like, a few days ago, I was at the field, laying on the floor, throwing up. You know what I'm saying? Because she pushes herself so far
Yes.
in training that then the results are this is what I'm able to do when it comes to race day. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I think about that in the context of the work that we do and the responsibility and the
Mhm.
things that have to be done behind the scenes, the work that constantly has to be put in. the training, the tireless hours, you know what I'm saying, all the crafting of things. And part of the difficulty of it all is the uncertainty, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no guarantees.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There isn't any. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we're on this
Yeah.
adventure with God, but we don't know how it's gonna work out.
And it reminds me of the song, My Worship is For Real. There was a part of it, that song, that just kind of arrested me years ago. And I think that whoever is singing it, I can't remember who sings it, but they are just like ad-libbing, just free flowing at one point. And she just says, "You don't know the cost of my anointing. You don't know what I had to go through to get here." And I think for all of us, we don't know the cost of what someone else has to pay, or what it takes for somebody else to show up. We just look at them in the limelight. We look at them on that track. We look at them in that boxing ring. We look at them in that church. We look at them leading that organization, and we just have no idea of what they're pulling behind them in order to get to that place. And it's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, I feel like when I read the scriptures, there's just no avoiding. I mean, look at the apostles, right? Look at any biblical character throughout the story who did something significant. There was some real suffering that they went through. And I probably look at that and I'm like, you know what, God, I don't want no part of that. Like, what? Miss me. You know what I'm saying? I remember
Yeah.
Paul, man, I've been shipwrecked 3 times.
Right.
At sea for a day and a half. I'm like, no.
I'm good on land.
No. No. That
I'm
sounds
good.
like
Uh-huh.
every like at sea for a day and a half, shipwrecked. No,
Yeah.
you know what
And
I'm saying?
the crazy part, we hear those words though, and we don't always like, what does it really mean?
Yeah,
Like,
just
what does it
glossing
really
over
mean?
it.
Like, let's paint the picture. Let's not gloss over that. Let's paint the picture. Like, what is he really saying? You know, and it's easy to just read over certain scriptures or read over people's experiences and not understand the depth of what someone is really saying.
That's good. So, anyways, you probably should tell us who you are and what you do because everybody
Oh.
might know. We should do that. You know, we probably should.
That's the thing though, Jordan. Anytime we talk, I feel like we just dive in. Like
Yeah, we
that's
just
this
in
is
there. We
why.
just chilling.
Yeah, you said, listen, you said that I'm dear to your heart. You're dear to my heart too, because as us working and walking together, it's good to have other founders. That you just know get it. The founders who you walking alongside, who you just know experience. Maybe not the same things, but some of the things that you're experiencing. So we always just jump right in. But I'm Candice. I'm Candice Wynn, founder and executive director of Boone. Boone is an acronym for Born Out of Necessity. And we essentially invest in the village that disciples Black youth.
Super dope. My next question is, I got so many questions, but the question I want to ask immediately, because I think listeners might ask it, is why Black youth specifically? I know. I know. I'm just trying to give you an opportunity to educate the people. That's all I'm doing. I'm just throwing you the alley. You know what I mean? I'm throwing you the alley. Nah. You know what I mean?
Okay, I'll land the plane. Issa Rae said, "I'm rooting for everybody Black," right? For me, I'm rooting for everybody Black, especially those under 18, because I look at that as being, of course, I believe the children are our future, Whitney Houston, right? But when we think about what it takes to be able to live an abundant life, right? The very point and the goal of slavery was to use marginalized, what was now in the United States marginalized populations, or people of color, or maybe low income people. But I'm going to talk about the experience of Black people, right? But the goal of the period of enslavement was in order to use Black people to advance a majority race, to advance the white race, and in order to do that, certain mentalities had to be established within people. And there's generational ideologies. There are narratives and messages that have been passed down from generation to generation. Some that definitely need to be celebrated, but some that are restricting. I think that if we look at who is in our nation, or who's really just focus on the states. The people who are in America and in positions of power and in positions of leadership, you don't really find a whole lot of black people. Why? Is because we haven't always been given the opportunities to advance in certain ways. We haven't always been given the platforms necessary to be elevated, either at academically, or to be elevated professionally. There's been lots of glass walls and glass ceilings placed around us, and a lot of time, well, and that begins in our youth. It begins when we're children. And if we can best position black youth in order to not see the restrictions, not see the barriers, in order to really grow in this world, then I think that we have the potential to advance as a population and advance as a people better. How they say that we want to, leave the future generations better than what we had. Every generation you want to have a leg up. I look at Boone is my direct contribution to ensuring that the black community has a leg up. Because when Jesus says, I come to give you a life and life more abundantly in John 10:10, he's not just talking about in the relation to faith. When he says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, that's in many different ways. Yep. That's within political systems. That's within, households. That's within redlining. That's within advancement within your profession. It's within so many different ways. So when we talk about an abundant life, you just got to have a holistic picture of what life looks like in order to know what the possibilities of abundance look like.
It's good. Yeah, I think when people think about sin, they often think about it very flat in terms of their individual sin, but they don't think about sin communally, and they don't think about sin systemically.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that gives dimensions to sin. And then obviously scripture talks about the principalities and powers. And so there is a ton going on to manipulate, confuse, and draw the worst out of people for their own ends. You know what I'm saying? And we will hurt others. We will hurt ourselves for the sake of self-preservation, protection, all those different, and we'll cause all different types of harm and destruction in that process. And so I think that plays itself out historically. And I think at the very least, you have to be willing to say, because obviously there's all different types of people having these conversations and have different perspectives on it. You have to, at the very least, be willing to say that, yes, does slavery exist today? No. Well, it does actually, but what we're talking about specifically, no, right? But I mean,
it's the residuals.
Honestly,
it's the residuals.
Exactly, correct.
Yeah.
So at the very least, you have to say there is a residual effect and impact that still exists. That then the question we have to ask ourselves is, well, do we have an obligation to do something about that? And more specifically, as Christians, do we have an obligation to do something about that?
Yeah.
Because I think when you get even more specific there, and you look at the call that we have as Christians in the scriptures, it's like, well, yes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like we have a responsibility to deal with these issues in our society. And then, like, to your point, I think one of the things that really gives me hope about this problem being solved is that we live in a society where we have never had more access to information.
Yeah.
The poverty line moves, right, across generations, because, now you'll be poor, like, socioeconomically, but the chances are you'll still have a smartphone, right? And so because of that, now we have the ability to help people use those tools to build things for themselves that could help them acquire wealth and create a different life for themselves and create a different socioeconomic status. But I mean, it's more than that, right? But I'm just thinking about it like a little bit flatly as I talk about it here. That gives me hope that there's actually this opportunity to teach kids in the hood, like, yo, there's real opportunities that you can get your hands on. And like some of these kids a lot of these kids are brilliant. Entrepreneurial, you know what I'm saying, resilient, have survived all these different types of things. One of the things that was always really interesting for me was when I would go and have conversations with kids, students at a urban school versus a suburban school. Students in a suburban school, there was a higher likelihood of SI and SH, those types of things, right? But in the urban schools, those kids had worked hard to survive. So they weren't really interested in harming themselves. Do you get what I'm saying? And so I always find that super interesting because they're living in the same environment with similar social pressures, seeing the same things on social media, but the type of resilience that existed and the kids coming from those contexts was different from the kids that were coming from the other contexts, which I also thought was super interesting. And so I'm just like, man, there's all these gifts, skills, talents, abilities, resilience, strength, and if we can come alongside and encourage that to be used for their good, for the good of their community, for the good of their people, for the good of the kingdom in an ultimate sense, I think some really dope, cool stuff could happen. But
Yeah, but I think too though this is where someone asked me when we were just first building Boone. They were like, "Well, you don't want to just do Boone for for the urban community," and I was like, "No, I don't." And the huge part of reason is like you find way more like living in 2020. What's this year? Six. Living in 2026, you find way more. There was something real that I watched earlier, and it was talking about millennial parents are the best parents because we always got McDonald's money, right? We got money for the book fair, like they and they just went on this whole list of things like, yeah, I ain't had that, yeah, we ain't do that, like I ain't grew up like that. And you find, but yet, even though there might be, like more, you find more economic advancement, or you might find more Black people living in environments that aren't always urban. The residuals and the effects are still there. They still present, and a lot of energy has been put behind low income. When reality is like, not everybody who's got a challenge is coming from low income.
that's also
Like
true.
sometimes it's more of a mentality that's being passed down. Sometimes it is just the inability to see, because you haven't seen maybe anybody in your family who's done that. That can happen within the suburban, it can happen within urban populations, it can happen within rural populations, it can happen anywhere, but when you start looking at the residuals of the period of enslavement, then you're able to recognize, okay, where has growth been restricted? And that's what I'm exploring. Where has growth been restricted for black youth? And how can we work to make sure that there are no barriers?
It's good. So, like, to further clarify, which is what you're doing, it's literally black youth across all socioeconomic strata. It doesn't matter. It's just black youth across the strata. So they could be low income, could be middle income, could be high income families. It doesn't matter. You want to engage black youth in all of those strata.
Yep. Period.
It's
Yep.
dope. That's a
Yep.
helpful distinction. So,
Yeah.
what is that work looking like? What are you? What's happening? What are you finding? If there was a youth worker who works specifically with Black youth, what is something that you would want them to know as they're listening to this podcast that would be helpful to them?
Yeah. You get many youth to listen to your podcast?
Well, youth workers,
Youth
youth
workers.
leaders.
Oh, youth workers. Okay, I was about to say, dang, we talking to teenagers. Hey, y'all.
No, they ain't listening.
I'm about to say, how you do that? Yeah. So when we first founded Boone, I think we've talked about this before. Like personally, this is not a secret. Something that I say openly is that we first founded Boone. I realized probably about a year in that when we founded it essentially a carbon copy of all these white organizations, but said it was for Black people. And Boone is 2 years old, so imagine that, right? So if the first year I realized this, oh man, you just created a carbon copy of the white organization, but said it's for Black people. And so now we need to figure out, okay, so who are we? The past year has been figuring out who we are and has been working to build a discipleship framework for Black teenagers. Exploring that question of where does growth get restricted, and for black youth, and what can we do about it? So we have been just honestly just exploring the question, for that, and we have an outline of an answer that I love, but we ain't telling it, for a number of reasons.
Yep.
There's a lot of history with predominantly white organizations trying to data mine people of color, to try to get at the crux of what it is that we're doing in order to put, their money and their organizational power behind it to do something with it. And I'm sorry, my grandma ain't raised no fool. Like I, it's staying to my chest right now. What it is that we're finding, but what we are doing is we're inviting people to help us to solve the problem. We start out just providing resources and providing opportunities for people to be able to advance in some kind of way. Things, actually, tools to help people, but as we continued advancing, I wanted to keep providing tools while I'm doing research. But the truth is, I'm a founder. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. My mother, I caretake for my mother. So no, I can't keep cranking out, leading our team to crank out resources while I do research. So we really just elevated the research and have invited people to be able to invite people to come alongside of us, helping us to solve the problem, helping us to figure out, hey, what the solution is. So we're just exploring. I mean, if you want to know what we're exploring, what does it look like? We're exploring where does growth get constricted for Black teenagers. We're exploring, what to do about it. And a huge part of it the solution lies in the church redefining discipleship. It once upon a time, discipleship had to look a certain kind of way because this is what so-and-so might have said discipleship is. But the truth is, like, influence is everywhere. And what responsibility does the church, the Big C church, and even the local church have to equip the broader village of influencers?
That's good.
Yeah.
So maybe you can answer this question, maybe you can't. What got constricted for you in your journey as a Black teenager? How did you
Yeah. I recently created a resource that's going to come out in a little bit. But in the beginning of it, I talk about one journey in particular, my journey of running track. And track was easily the physically hardest thing that I have ever done was run track. I wasn't a consistent athlete. I didn't show up to practice all the time, but I had natural talent. My first day of track practice, I tell a story about how my first day of track practice, I was able to do some things that other people weren't able to do. I had a stamina, I had a mental toughness about me that my coach really, really liked. But there were barriers to me being able to show up that I didn't recognize were barriers. I looked at them as if you look at something as, I allowed them to restrict me. Put it like this: I allowed them to restrict me, as opposed to let me figure out how I can solve them. Even notice the different barriers that are present. I think if I was able to see my life, and that's what our resource has been. It's creating the resource I just created is creating a resource that helps teenagers to be able to see their life in order to self-identify. So it walks them through several different themes, exploring different themes in their life, themes that we've identified as generally restricting themes, and exploring these themes. And as they explore these themes, they just notice how these things are showing up in their life. And as they notice how these things are showing up in their lives, then they can do something about it, because you can't do something about what you can't see.
Correct. No, that's really good. And I think about the life of a teenager and where they're at developmentally, and they're not prone to see those things. So I think a resource that can kind of help them in their language kind of begin to be like, okay, maybe that is a problem. Oh, okay, maybe that is something I should address. Because it's not like students aren't open to those things.
Right.
They absolutely are. But if they're unaware, they're unaware.
Yeah. Yeah. And a huge part of it too is like people notice something and they're like, okay, let me just go change it right now. Like, nah, nobody say nobody don't change nothing right now. We just want you to see what's happening in your life and the impact that it's having on you. And when you see it and you notice the impact, then you're better positioned to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, so as a clinician, one of the things I talk about quite a bit is the stages of change, which is usually it's often for substance use, right? But I think it's actually a great system for thinking about how somebody changes their mind, right? Pre-contemplation, I don't know I have a problem, but there is one. Contemplation, now I'm thinking about the problem. Planning, now I'm planning to do something. Action, I start doing something. Maintenance, I maintain the action. And then relapse, I fall back into the old behavior. But hopefully I fall forward and learn something that'll help me go longer in the new behavior than it did previously.
Absolutely.
And so I think when you think about it that way too, it also takes the burden off you as a youth leader. So if I'm trying to see change happen in the life of a student, I might see a student doing something that's inappropriate or doing something that I know is going to lead them down a path that is not healthy for them, right? But if I just try and get them to shift the behavior immediately, in one conversation. Like, hey, here's all the things you're doing wrong. Here's what you need to do right, or don't do that again, or else. You know what I'm saying? It's not gonna work, and it doesn't work for us as adults.
Yeah.
I don't know why we think it's gonna work with kids. We just be doing stuff with students that we don't even do it ourselves. We're stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, we just be expecting them to change in ways that we don't.
Right. Yeah.
We expect
Seriously.
them to just listen when we don't. My wife telling me to do something, I'm like, what? I don't want to do that. And then I expect the students to just hear me and be like, yes, sir. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, come on, bro.
It don't work like that. It don't work. And a huge part of what we, you know, I feel like there's just gotta. I'm gonna shut up because I'm getting ahead of myself. But I just know that I echo everything you're saying.
Yeah, that's good. Switching gears a little bit, what is it like? What is the most important lesson that you have learned as a founder thus far?
Ooh.
I think the reason why I ask that is because there's probably people listening to this podcast who are thinking about starting things, thinking about creating things, nonprofits, businesses, whatever.
Yeah.
Might be feeling drawn and called. Like, and I think we very much get caught up in the excitement of starting something, and that wears off very quickly. And then now it's nitty gritty time, and nobody's cheering for you, and you know what I'm saying? Like, you're locked in the dungeon trying to get this thing moving. So, what's an important lesson that you've learned as a founder this far that you think would be important to pass on?
I think once upon a time, I probably would have said, early on, I would have answered that question and said consistency. My husband kept telling me, whatever you do, just keep it consistent. And I think that was necessary. Not to say it's not necessary anymore, but it was necessary up until a certain point when I developed the routine and the rhythm of consistency. So once I developed the rhythm of consistency, for me, the next thing, the lesson that I feel like I just recently learned, like probably like yesterday, like maybe last week. I'm like a weekend. But no, for real, it's sometimes, and this is not going to be anything that you probably haven't heard anymore. So it's not like, oh my God, mic drop moment. It's just a reminder though, is that sometimes we want to wait until we get to a certain place in order to do a certain thing. You know, I'm gonna wait until, I get to this point in business before I start having better balance in life, or I'm gonna wait until I get to this place with my organization before we can incorporate. I'm gonna speak more like personally, before I can personally spend more time with my mom during the day, right? I think that it's easy to get caught up in the grind and the work of things having to get done, that you don't allow yourself to just live in the present moment. But one of the beautiful things about being a founder is that I have the ability to live in the present. But in order to do that, I've got to organize my life to look a certain kind of way. So I've had to organize my days. Like certain days, I don't take meetings. I'm unavailable. And it's not because, it's more so because I need to be able to produce, and I can't produce if I'm in a meeting and I'm out of a meeting and I'm in a meeting. If my creativity gets blocked, right? When I started structuring my days different, I was able to get a whole lot more done faster, and I found myself willing to step into, let me just sit on this couch and catch up on Paradise in the middle of the day and have lunch.
Well, that show's fire, by the way.
Oh my gosh, it's so great, right?
Are you caught up?
Yes, I'm caught up. And I need to know who this Alex is.
Bro. Yo, tell me why
she put on a jacket and
YouTube.
Everything.
We searching chat. We like trying to figure out like, yo,
who is
Alex?
Alex?
And then we like,
and then her
Dylan,
son.
Is that her son? Like, I'm trying to like,
what?
is it him? Same birthday. They had a nosebleed at the same time.
Same time.
Dude had a nosebleed.
Yes.
He's had visions of seeing Dylan. I'm like, yo, I cannot wait for this final
I know,
episode, bro. Like,
me too.
I need
Is it the final one? Because I need like 10 more.
Yeah. It's the
Dang.
final one of the season. Yeah, I think there's one more
Oh, okay.
season, and then they're done. They're only doing 3 seasons.
Yeah. But my point is though, only 3 seasons. Wow. At
Yeah.
least they tell you in advance so you can prepare your heart and your mind. Because
Yep.
I'd be
Facts.
mad when it doesn't come back. But
Facts.
my point is this though. There are some times when we have to hold off and wait until we get to a certain point to do certain things. And people are saying, oh no, why wait till to put off till tomorrow? What you gonna do today? Yes, I agree with that 100%. However, sometimes there's seasons when you have to sprint. And if you're in a season when you have to sprint, yes, sprint during that season. But once that season, recognize when that season is finished and live your life. Because the reality is, I think Lauryn Hill said it best. She said, I couldn't create because I wasn't having experiences when she was, in the music industry.
That's
When she
good.
starts having experiences living in the world, she was better able to create.
Yep. Yep.
And I,
Yep.
I feel that. I definitely feel
Good.
that.
No, that's really good. I think, yeah, to your point, like as a creative, you need to create space for you to go back to the source. You know what I'm saying? I got to spend time with God. I got to spend time in His creation. I got to spend time with my family. I got to experience the joy of playing with my kids. You know what I'm saying? The joy of
And
spending
my
time with my
friends, my friends,
exactly. The joy of
myself.
kicking it with the homies. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? The joy of sitting on the porch and staring at the sky and not having anything to worry about. You know
Yes.
what I mean? And that's the thing as a founder, to your point, like there's always something to do. Like I could literally stay up, never sleep. There would always be another task for me to do. Like
Yeah.
I'm
It don't
recording
end.
this podcast right now. I know there's 20 other things you could be doing. I know there's
Yep.
20 other things I could be doing. But I
Yep.
ain't doing that. And I'm enjoying recording this
Yeah.
podcast. Right? You see what I'm
Right.
saying? And then
Yes.
later I'm gonna go hang out with youth and do what I'm doing. And like but I could totally be like just immersed in tasks for the business. And because there's always something to
Yeah.
do, I just have to acknowledge I'm never ever gonna get it all done. And so
Never.
you kind of just like
Never.
have to come to terms with the reality that you are always going to end the day
With
with
something to
more
do.
tasks hanging over your head than you probably started with. And you just
Yeah.
have to be okay with that.
Yeah. And that one, I've gotten really good the past 2 months, I'd say. And I really want to just celebrate this for myself. I ain't gonna lie. But what I've tried to do on Fridays is look at my upcoming week, right? Look at what's coming up next week. What do I need to get done that week? And literally create, here's my to-do list for the week. And that's it, and literally living in that. And when I've created that kind of system, I breathe so much. I breathe so much easier because I know that I'm on target towards the bigger picture of what it is that I'm trying to do. I get
Good.
caught up and I get in these cycles of I gotta do this, I gotta do that when I don't have a plan. But when I take my time to develop a plan and then just execute it, the freedom and even the Candice that shows up, I just feel like I show up better because I'm not carrying all the weight of this got to get done and this got to do this got to get done, this got to get done. I feel life differently.
No, it's good. I think space for thinking too, like we underestimate that. Just space that's blank where it's like, all right, let me just sit here and think and dream. Let me like remember tasks that I've forgotten because I hate when like, you're out, you driving somewhere with the wife to go get dinner or you hanging out with the kids and then you like, damn, there's
Remember
like
something?
3 things that I forgot to write down and now I gotta
Right.
find something to write it down real quick. Otherwise, this gonna be gone again. And then
Right.
you forget, and then you're like, "What? What is it that I just forgot?"
Uh-huh.
It's just about what you forgot. Like, you know what I'm saying? And then you're like, "Well, was it that important? Because I forgot it."
It
Like,
can't be that important if I forgot it, but it really was important,
bro,
but I just forgot it. Yeah.
bro, yeah, it's
Yeah. Organization is definitely helpful. It's helpful.
100%. It's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
What would you say? What would you say is the most difficult thing about being a founder?
Ooh, how would you answer that? I'm curious.
Um, I would answer it. I think to me, it's uh, the emotional, is toil the right word? Like the emotional difficulty associated with being a founder. So like you're building this thing, you don't know if it's gonna work. You have this idea, and like you always like there's this guy online. You guys have probably heard of him, Alex Hermosi. He has like this graph that he created. It's like you start with what is it, uninformed optimism. So you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna start this thing, you're super optimistic about being successful with it, but you really don't know what you're doing. Then you get to informed pessimism, which is now I have some information. I actually realize how hard this is. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Then you get to like I forgot what he calls it. It's like the valley, like it's just like a huge dip. It's just like a place where basically you're really having an existential crisis about the thing that you created. Like, yo, is this thing really gonna work? I'm doing all this work. I'm not really seeing the needle move on this thing the way that I thought it would. A lot of people at that point crash and burn, and they go follow the next dangling carrot,
Mm-hmm.
or they might just quit altogether. And then you have informed optimism, which is like, okay, I figured some things out now. I've done the work. I've experienced some failures. I've learned some things, and now I actually feel like I have a clear trajectory towards what it is I'm trying to get to. And then it's achievement, which is like now I actually got there. Um, and so I think once again, like understanding that dip that's coming your way as you go through that process of figuring this thing out and realizing like, dang, this is actually way harder than I thought it was going to be. Or at least that's been my experience anyways. Like, yo, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. Um, I think the emotional difficulty that comes in that and the things that it
Mm-hmm.
exposes, like to me, there's been nothing more, entrepreneurship has been more challenging for my faith than anything else. Like, and
Hmm.
point blank, period. Like any other
Wow.
experience I've had.
Wow.
Like for me, it has made me ask questions that I have never asked
Hmm.
because I'm like, God, what on earth is going on right now? You know what I'm
Is it
saying?
the process of, is it through the content creation you experience that, or is it the
No,
organizational
it's
development?
just the business, growing the business, trying
Yeah.
to solve problems, trying to figure out how to build a funnel that actually converts, trying to,
Yes.
and then so
Yes.
like, and then there's like this reality for us. It's like, okay, I'm doing this business thing, but I'm also doing it because fundamentally I believe God called me to do it. You moved me in
Uh-huh.
this direction, and so like on some level, I'm expecting God to just be like there to be some like supernatural measure of success, and then it's like, nah, bro, you got to get it out the mud. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, hey, yo, like,
God
where
told me to
you
do
at?
this. God
Yeah.
told me to do this. And since
And
God
then you're
told me to
like,
do this,
and
it's
then
going
you're
to be a
like,
light switch that comes on. Yeah.
did he? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
And then it's
Yeah.
like, the reality is God could call me to something that
Yeah.
like doesn't have the measures of success that I would want it to.
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
look at what we've created, like we're serving hundreds of youth pastors. That's a
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it might not look like, hey, that means it means it's gonna line your pockets or give you
Yeah.
any significant amount of income. Like you might have to be doing XYZ over here while you're doing this thing for the Lord. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I think
Yeah.
once again, we just have ideas about how we think this thing's gonna work out, and like it just never really it ever really
Yeah.
works out that way, if at
Yeah.
all.
And I feel like whoever might consider themselves to be your competitor, probably lives in a space of, yeah, just quit. Yeah, just quit. But all the people that you feel like a breath of fresh air to are just like, keep going, keep going. We need this. We need this, but it's
Dude,
just a
and
matter of,
those always come at the right time. Like I'll be
yeah,
like, hey, God, I'm done. And then somebody texts me like, hey, bro, this stuff is dope. We need you. You guys got to keep going. I'm
yeah.
like,
Yeah, yeah. That's
okay.
been hard for me too. And that journey that you were talking about, I feel like it cycles, it repeats itself through different seasons. Like I feel like right now we have been, like I said, we've been trying to figure out who we are, our brand foundation, and this is not just colors and logos and stuff. Like this is the crux of who we are. And I feel like I'm at that informed optimism. But now when it comes to, okay, let's put some stuff out there, it's like a little bit of ignorance is necessary. A little bit of ignorance is necessary, in order to step into a new space. But I think the hardest part for me, yeah, I definitely think the emotional side of it, undoubtedly. But because you said that, I won't repeat it. For me, it's scaling it's crazy, as simple as it's gonna sound, scaling my vision, and I think I've lived a lot of trying to just scale too big too soon. And it's, yeah, I've tried to scale too big too soon, and I've been through a huge period where I couldn't push anything through. Like we recorded episodes from our podcast. I think the last ones that we recorded were like back in October. One of them episodes just went out last week, earlier this week. yesterday. I think it just went out yesterday in March,
I saw a clip
and
for it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, and a huge part, but that was recorded in October though. So here's that's the
yeah.
backstory, right? There was, I think I was trying to, I was just trying to do too much with our team. And I had to realize that our team wasn't able to move at the same pace as I was. And I had to slow down, much as I didn't want to, which is part of the reason why I'm sitting on my couch watching Paradise in the middle of the day. It's I realized I had to slow down so that my team could catch up. So in me slowing down, that's hard, because I see the bigger picture. I see where we're going, and I want to be able to do it right now. And there's people who is just like, yeah, that's long term, Candice. And I'm just like, no, it's not. It's today. It's
So next week.
today. Yeah.
That's good.
Yep.
That's really good.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
So a question I like to ask everybody as we close our time together, and I feel like there's so much more for us to talk about, so we will be doing this again. Um, if you had 50 youth workers, let's say black youth leaders in front of you, leading ministries, your avatar, right? Or family, whatever. Because I know you guys are about the village as well. Like it's not just the youth leader, but it's parents. It's like, how would you encourage them if you had 2 minutes to do so? What would you say to them to encourage them in the work they're responsible for? And then I would love you to pray for us as we close.
You don't got to do it by yourself. It takes a village for a reason. That's as simple as that. You know, we haven't always wanted to, not everybody has wanted to lean into the power of the village for understandably good reasons, you know? But if we can at least find one or two other people that we feel safe with and that we trust, you know, like we lean on our village, you know, lean on our people. Yeah. I'm going to pray us out now because when my neighbor's son is at the door, wanting to go play basketball in my backyard. And
Okay.
he's going to sit on my front porch until I. But God, I just thank you. God, I thank you for the opportunity to sit here with my brother, Jordan. I thank you for his life and his ministry and the things that he leads, God, as we both continue pursuing the vision that you've given us. Lift us up, encourage us. God, I thank you for every person who was blessed by any piece of content, any piece of anything that we put out. Go ahead. Sorry, Tavianis. Go ahead. Go. Hold on. God, I thank you for this. And this in your son Jesus' name. Amen. You see, this is the village in action.
Hey,
This
let
is
them
the
know.
village in
It be
action.
like that. It be
Tavion
like that.
wants to go play
Real
on
life.
my basketball court.
Real life. All right. Well, as
All right.
we always say, it's the beginning of the conversation, at the end. Questions, comments, concerns, you know where to find us. We love y'all. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace. Bye-bye.